going to discuss the Module 10, which tackles about ecoliteracy. So before we begin, let me ask you a simple question. Have you ever thrown a plastic bottle without thinking where it ends up? Or perhaps left a light on even when nobody is using it? Many of us do these things every day without realizing their impact on the environment. This is why ecoliteracy is important. Ecoliteracy is more than simply knowing environmental issues. It is understanding how nature works and how humans depend on it, and how we can live responsibly to ensure a sustainable future. In this presentation, we will learn about ecoliteracy, sustainable development, the environmental principles of nature, green schools, and how these concepts can be integrated into education and daily life. But before that, let me read to you our learning outcomes. At the end of this module, we are expected to first explain ecoliteracy and its role in developing a sustainable environment. Second, discuss the 7 environmental principles of nature. And third, describe what a green school is and why it is important. And fourth, explain how ecoliteracy can be integrated into a curriculum, school practices, and classroom activities. And the fifth one, identify life lessons and values gained from participating in environmental activities. And the sixth one is to analyze research related to ecoliteracy and its implications in teaching and learning. And finally, develop a community service action plan focused on environmental care and protection. Always remember that these learning outcomes help us become not only knowledgeable students, but also are responsible stewards of the environment. Let us discover first what does ecoliteracy and sustainable development mean. But first, ecoliteracy, it refers to understanding the ecological systems and recognizing how human society functions within nature. That's the meaning of ecoliteracy. According to Wall in 2017, ecoliteracy provides important lessons from nature that can help reform the society and create a sustainable communities. So in simple terms, ecoliteracy teaches us that humans are separate from nature. We are part of it. For example, when forests are destroyed, animals lose their habitats, soil erosion increases, and communities become more vulnerable to floods and landslides. So this shows that every action we take affects the environment and eventually affects us as well. Therefore, ecoliteracy encourages us to make and informed decisions that support both the human well-being and the environmental sustainability. David Orr in 1992 argued that when ecological perspectives are excluded from education, students may grow up believing that ecology is not important. Think about it. If schools only teach academic subjects without discussing environmental responsibility, students may not understand the consequences of pollution, the climate change, or resource depletion. For instance, a student may learn mathematics perfectly but remain unaware of how excessive consumption contributes to environmental problems. And or emphasize that education not only prepares students for jobs but also prepare them to become a responsible citizens who can protect and sustain the environment. Now there's this Orr and Capra's concept of ecological literacy. Orr and Capra introduced the concept of ecological literacy to emphasize the need for education that helps the learners to understand the relationship between the natural processes and human life. And everything we do depends on nature. The food we eat comes from the agricultural systems, and the water we drink comes from the natural water sources. And also, the air we breathe is purified by plants and ecosystems. When students understand these connections, they become more conscious of their actions and develop a stronger commitment to environmental protection. And ecological literacy teaches us that human survival and the environmental health are interconnected. Sustainability is a qualitative and quantitative condition. It means that it is our ability or the human's ability to survive and thrive over time without fully exhausting the resources needed by the future generation. And a sustainable lifestyle means that meeting the today's needs while ensuring that future generation can also meet theirs. And for example, planting trees after cutting them down supports sustainability, while using the reusable water bottles instead of single-use plastics also promotes sustainability. And conserving our electricity and water are also a sustainable practices. And the main goal here is the balance. While using or we're using the resources responsibly without causing a long-term harm to the environment. To achieve sustainability, we must address the ecological illiteracy. When we say ecological illiteracy, it occurs when people lack understanding of how the ecosystems function and how their actions affect the environment. And many industries, practices, and institutions contribute to the environmental destruction because ecological consequences are often ignored. And a real life example is improper waste disposal. People may throw garbage into rivers without realizing that it can cause flooding, water pollution, and health problems for communities downstream. And becoming an eco-literate, people can make decisions that support the environmental health rather than. Now let's proceed to ecologically literate person and society. And according to Wall, an ecologically literate person understands how ecosystems work and applies that knowledge to build a sustainable communities. Such individuals recognize that everything in nature is interconnected. And an ecoliterate person conserves resources, practices waste, segregation, and supports environmental programs, and lastly, makes a responsible consumer choices. For example, choosing product within minimal packaging reduces waste, and using a public transportation or carpooling helps reduce the carbon emissions. An ecoliterate society values cooperation, sustainability, and long-term environmental well-being. There are ways to develop ecoliteracy in schools, and schools play a critical role in developing ecoliteracy. The students spend much of their time in school, making it an ideal place to cultivate environmental awareness and responsibility. The following are effective ways to develop ecoliteracy among learners. The first way is developing empathy for all forms of life. Students should understand that all living things have value and deserve respect. When we care about plants, animals, and ecosystems, we become more motivated to protect them. For example, students who participate in tree planting activities often develop a stronger appreciation for nature because they witness growth and life firsthand. Empathy encourages environmental responsibility and compassionate action. Sustainability is not an individual effort, it is a community responsibility. Students should learn the importance of cooperation and interconnectedness. A practical example, rather, is a school recycling program. When students and the teachers and as well as the staff work together to reduce waste, they contribute to a cleaner and healthier environment. This teaches us that collective action can create a significant positive change. And the third one is to make the invincible visible. Many environmental issues are difficult to see directly. Technology can help make these hidden impacts visible. Tools such as Google Earth and environmental applications allows the students to observe deforestation, the pollution, as well as the climate changes around the world. For example, the satellite images can show how forests have disappeared over time due to the human activities. Seeing these changes visually helps the students to understand the environmental problems more deeply. And the fourth one is to anticipate unintended consequences. Every action has consequences, including the environmental consequences. And the teachers should help the students think critically about the possible outcomes of their decisions. For example, the plastic bags are convenient, but their widespread use contributes to the pollution and marine life deaths. And by anticipating unintended consequences, the students can learn to make informed and responsible choices. And this approach encourages the prevention rather than simply responding to the environmental problems after they occur. And the fifth one is to understand how nature sustains life. Nature has sustained life on Earth for millions of years, and ecoliterate individuals understand three important ideas. First, all living organisms are interconnected. Second, systems exist at different levels and influence one another. And the third one, sustainable living means meeting the present needs without compromising the future generations. For example, the bees that we can see all around of us play a crucial role in pollination. Without the bees, many crops would fail, affecting the flood production worldwide. So this action or this scenario demonstrates how every component of nature contributes to sustaining life. Now let's proceed to the 7 environmental principles of nature. To better understand the environmental issues, we must understand first the word ecosystems. Barry Commoner proposed 7 environmental principles that explain how nature works, and these principles help us appreciate the interconnectedness and balance found in ecosystems. The first principle is nature knows best. Nature has its own processes that maintain the balance. When humans interfere excessively, the environmental problems often arise. For example, the excessive use of pesticides may kill harmful insects but can also harm the beneficial organisms. And the principle 2, all forms of life are important. Every organism has a role. Even the small insects contribute to the ecological balance. Removing one species can affect many others. And the third principle, everything is connected to everything else. A change in one part of an ecosystem affects the entire system. Deforestation can lead to soil erosion, flooding, habitat loss, and climate impacts. Principle 4, everything changes. Change is a natural part of life. Humans must adopt and use the technology responsibly to support the positive or to support a positive environmental changes. And the principle 5, everything must go somewhere. There's no such thing as a way when throwing a waste. Garbage dumped improperly often returns as pollution. This is why waste segregation and recycling are important. Principle 6, ours is a finite earth. Earth resources are limited. Water, the minerals, the forests, as well as the fossil fuels cannot be used endlessly. Responsible consumption is necessary. Principle 7: Nature is beautiful and we are stewards of God's creation. As human beings, we have the responsibility to care for the environment. Protecting the nature is both a moral and a practical obligation. Now let's proceed to the towards a green school and education for sustainable development. A green school is an educational institution that promotes environmental responsibility through its policies, practices, and curriculum. And green schools encourage recycling, energy conservation, waste management, and environmental education. And the example for this is the school gardens, the tree planting programs, the plastic-free campaigns, and as well as the rainwater harvesting system. And these initiatives teach the students that environmental stewardship should be part of everyday life. Now, what is the role of the school environment? The school environment should encourage and support the sustainable practices. Because when students learn in a clean, green, and environmental friendly setting, they are more likely to adopt a sustainable habits. For example, when we are going to provide them recycling bins around the campus, it encourages proper waste disposal. And creating a green spaces helps the students to appreciate nature while improving their well-being. Now, what are the benefits of green education? Green education helps the students to connect with their surroundings, develop environmental awareness, improve health and society, and build a sense of responsibility, and lastly, strengthen a community involvement. And most importantly, it develops environmentally conscious citizens who are prepared to address future environmental challenges. To conclude, ecoliteracy teaches us to understand the relationships between humans and nature because it encourages a sustainable living, environmental responsibility, and informed decision making. And the 7 environmental principles remind us that nature operates through an interconnected system that require balance and care. And the schools play an essential role in developing the eco-literate individuals through a green practices and environmental education. And as future educators and responsible citizens, our goal is not only to learn about the environment but also to protect it through our actions. And always remember that we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from future generations. Thank you, and I am now ready for your questions.
Hello everyone, I am teacher AICA and today we are going to learn about green school, its concept and its background. So what is the background of green school? The concept of green school was introduced in year 1990s in Europe. In year 1992, the Rio Earth Summit found or recognized the need to take action in our environmental preservation. In year 2002, there was a shift from environmental education to sustainability education. And in year 2005, the UN launches Decade of Education for Sustainable Development or DESD. In 2005 onwards, schools adopt sustainable practices and ESD approaches. So, what is a green school? A green school is built and is guided by environmental sustainability principles. It aims to maximize resources and opportunities for learners, teachers, parents, and even stakeholders inside and outside the school. Its goal is to promote sustainability through the active involvement of the teachers, students, and community, and it requires continuous and collaborative efforts from all stakeholders. So what is the benefits of a green school to the students? First, it helps students to apply learning through real-world experiences. Second, it builds understanding of environmental processes and issues. Lastly, it develops life skills, values, attitudes, and environmental sustainability. So green school is very important because it helps students to understand better of why is our environment important to us, not just through mere knowledge, but through tangible and real life experiences. Next is the essential aspects. The essential aspects of having a green school as part of our curriculum is to have clean, healthy, protective, and green surroundings. Second, promotes both the physical and psychosocial health of the learners. Next is to bring children closer to nature and eventually involve them in taking care of it. So next is a green school adheres to the following precepts. First, learning about the environment. So we must learn, understand, and know the basic things that is happening in our environment. Second is learning through the environment. So upon having our green school program as part of our curriculum, children are exposed to the environment and thus they can learn through the environment by the active engagement of the things that are happening around us. Next is learning for the environment. So this program aims for students to understand why we have to learn, we have to adopt, and we have to care for our environment. Thus, they aim for students to not just actively engage with the things that are happening in our environment, but also to aim for the betterment for our environment. Next is understanding the green curriculum. So in understanding the green curriculum, it views the environments as a multidisciplinary and dynamic with scientific, social, economic, political, and technological dimensions. Also, it provides a holistic understanding of how the world functions and how human actions affects it. Third is it addresses sustainability issues, including resource conservation, culture and heritage, health and sanitation, safety and security, and equity and justice. Fourth is it encourages students to explore and connect different aspects of the environment. And lastly, it promotes shared responsibility between teachers and students for accountability. Lastly, we have characteristics of a green school. First, it protects health. Of course, exposing our children in a school wherein there is greenness can help them to improve their health. Next, it increases student performance. According to statistics, student performance have raised to 20% when they're exposed to green school. Next, it saves energy and money. Of course, green school builds buildings that are safe and can reduce the cost of the energy. And next, it reduces carbon emissions and it reduces water usage. It improves teacher retention and it improves daily attendance. Also, it provides a unique educational opportunity, and since we are exposed to green, it can provide opportunities for green jobs. Students are already have the enough exposure to how green school works, green buildings, infrastructures, and how it flows naturally, thus helping them or providing them with more opportunity for green jobs, and it improves equity. We also have what we call dark green school program. This is a school that delivers environmental education through a simulation of the environmental philosophy by the students in formal lessons as well as in activities outside the classroom. So accordingly, a school must A. Be clean and neat as evidence of good management and housekeeping. B. Conservation of materials and energy, proper waste management, segregation, use of appropriate materials, and being or having smoke-free air. C. Have management policies and guidelines that would create a healthy and ecological campus. D. Have a well-planned environmental curriculum for all levels, adequately oriented and trained faculty and administrative, library, and financial support. E. Have faculty and students who are aware and appreciate the environmental program of the school. F. Reach out to an outside community to spread concern of Mother Earth and facilitate projects and programs that involves the environment. And lastly, engage in research that adds knowledge in the ways of nature and the impact of human activities. So that ends our lesson for today. Don't forget that the concept of green school was made not just for students, but also for the teachers, parents, and stakeholders. It is to involve us in making our environment much greener and better and bringing it to school, helping students to learn it as easily and as earlier as possible. Thank you so much and have a blessed day.
Good day, everyone. Today, I'll be going to discuss to you about the Ecoliteracy, which focuses on ecological living practices and different teaching strategies that promote sustainability. So this topic helps us to understand how humans can live responsibly while protecting the environment. So what is the ecological living? So when we say about ecological living, it means living in a way that protects and sustains the environment. So it teaches us that humans, animals, plants, and natures are all connected. So through ecological living, people become more aware of how their actions affect the environment and how they can reduce the harmful impact. So according to KATHLEA, ecological living follows the important principles. First, we have here the matter cycles continuously in nature, meaning nothing is wasted. The second one is most energy comes from the sun. The third one is diversity makes an ecosystem stronger and more resilient. Fourth, one species wasted and can become another species resource. And lastly, survival in nature depends on cooperation and balance. Sustainability has three dimensions. First is environmental sustainability, which focuses on protecting nature and resources. The second one is economic sustainability, which means using resources wisely without wasting them. The third one is the social sustainability, so which focuses on improving people's quality of life And well, ecological living is important because it helps us to understand our connection with nature. So it encourages us to lessen environmental damage and become more responsible in our action. So it is also give people knowledge and skills to help them create a better and healthier future. In inner ecology, we have here, when it's about inner ecology, it focuses on personal awareness and responsibility. So this includes of becoming an agent of change, caring for nature, saving energy, recycling, and thinking about the welfare of future generations. And it reminds us that change starts within ours. So we also have here the outer ecology. So when we say about the outer ecology, it focuses on the practical actions that people can do in everyday life. So for examples include reducing, reusing, and recycling materials. So are you all familiar in 3Rs? It is collecting rainwater, composting waste, and planting gardens, buying local products, and supporting business that care for the environment. Integrating ecological literacy in education. So ecological literacy can be integrated into schools through different teaching strategies. So through this, the student can learn better through activities, discussions, and real-life experiences. So these strategies help students to develop their knowledge, skills, and values for sustainable living. We have also here the place-based and project-based learning. So when we say about the place-based learning, it allows the students to learn from their local environment and community. So for example, the students can study plants, rivers, or even their community issues. Project-based learning, on the other hand, it helps the student learn by working on project and solving a real-life problems. The Socratic inquiry, it focuses on learning through questions and discussions. So teachers are encouraged the students to think critically. So instead of only memorizing the fact, the experiential learning focuses on learning through the actual experiences, and it is actually good because in such environmental activities or in a community project. We also have here the interdisciplinary learning combines different subjects. It includes like science, math, history, and language. So this approach helps students understand topics more deeply and apply different skills in solving problems. So it also makes learning more meaningful and engaging. Or in conclusion, literacy teaches us how to live responsibility and the care of environment. So through ecological living and effective teaching strategies, students can develop awareness and actions that contribute to a more sustainable future. This is KATHLEA. See you in our next meeting.